the prayer, the invocation, so if you will all bow your heads. May this time of meeting be blessed by your presence. May we who meet be blessed with your wisdom. May the communities we represent be blessed with your hope. Amen. If you'll please, I'll stand for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right, special recognition. Turn it over to Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board and ladies and gentlemen of the audience. Tonight, we have several elementary and middle school students who are deserving of special recognition for their recent accomplishments at either the Griffin-Risa Regional Science Fair or the Griffin-Risa Regional Literacy Days competition. If you will recall from our last monthly meeting, we had so many students that placed either first, second, or third at the Regional Science Fair that we had to separate them in order to have room in our boardroom to recognize all of them. At our last meeting, we recognized all first place winners. Tonight, we will recognize all students who won second place honors at the Griffin-Risa Regional Science Fair. So when I call your name, please come forward to accept your award. We'll begin with Harrison Bohannon. Harrison, come forward. Harrison won second place in the Animal Science Division with his project entitled Dynamic Effects on Amazing Mice. Harrison attends Indian Creek Middle School. Congratulations, sir. Next, we have Wesley Raines. Wesley, come on up. Wesley won second place in the Physics and Astronomy Division with his project entitled Cool Soda. Wesley is a student at Indian Creek Middle School. Congratulations, Wesley. Coming forward next should be Tommy Heron and Evan Gravitt. These two men teamed up for a second place finish in the Environmental Sciences Division with their project entitled Biodegradable or Not. Tommy and Ethan attend Indian Creek Middle. Congratulations, young men. Coming forward next should be Brooks Benton and Casey Potts. Brooks and Casey also joined forces in the science fair and won a second place award in the Energy and Transportation Division for their project, It's Complicated. Brooks and Casey also attend Indian Creek. Congratulations to the two of you. Allison Cope. Allison? Not here, but let me read that she won second place in the Physics and Astronomy Division with her project, What is the Strongest Paper Towel Brand? Allison is a student at Cousins Middle. Let's give her a congratulatory round of applause. Ethan Holmes. Ethan? Not here. Ethan won second place in the Animal Science Division with his project, What Mousetrap Bait Do Mice Prefer? Ethan attends Cousin Middle. Curtis Broadnax. Curtis? Not here. Curtis could not attend this evening due to illness, but Curtis won second place in the Engineering Materials and Bioengineering Division with his project, What Type of Tape Works Best on Cardboard? Next, we'll recognize those students who won first, second, and third place awards at the Griffin-Risa Regional Literacy Days competition. When I call your name, please come forward. Morgan Hathorn. Morgan won the second place award in the fourth grade poetry recitation competition with her performance of the poem, Casey at Bat. Morgan is a student at Newton County Theme School at Fickwick. Congratulations, young lady. Allie Hay. Allie won first place honors in the fifth grade poetry recitation contest with her performance of the poem, Gertrude McFuzz. Allie is also a student at the Newton County Theme School. Congratulations, Allie. James Wilson. James brought home the third place award in the fourth grade Ready writing competition, where students are given a prompt and 1 hour to complete an essay. James is a student at the Newton County Theme School at Fickwick. Ayanna Cooper. This young lady brought home the second place award in the 5th grade Ready Writing competition. She is a student at Fairview Elementary School. Congratulations. That concludes tonight's recognition. Let's give all of these wonderful students a round of applause. Thank you very much. Parents who are of these young people, would you please stand up? Parents, please stand. Thank you for what you do for raising this sign. And Madam Chairman, just a recognition, a statement of fact, there's a very important East Blost election that's coming Tuesday. I hope you will vote.
Thank you. All right, next is our public participation portion. I think we have one person, and I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Henderson Baker.
Public participation is the time that the board has set aside to encourage you as members of our community to voice your opinion on any matter either included on or excluded from the printed agenda. A maximum time of 5 minutes will be allotted to a single individual or a single topic based on the number of requests. Complaints against any employee of the school system will not be heard unless the complaint has been submitted in writing to the superintendent at least 7 days prior to the board meeting. If unresolved, any personal complaints about school personnel must be put in writing for the board to review in executive session. Personal attacks against any member of the board will not be tolerated. Once the time for public participation has passed, discussion of the topics will be restricted to board members only. Thank you in advance for complying with this request. And since we have some parents that are getting up, if anybody else would like to go ahead before we get started.
Newton County did very well this year in the various
Yes,
competitions.
they did.
Very well indeed. Proud of these folks.
Okay, Madam Chairman, there's one person on public participation tonight. It's Mr. Logan Bistock.
Good evening,
Good evening.
Madam Chair, Dr. Matthews. You are correct. One of the most important things that's going to happen in the school district with the election of East Bloss happens in a little less than a week. I'm here as a young person to express some concerns I have for the SPLOST. Number one, the Pew Research Foundation finds that sales tax or sales tax associated SPLOST is one of the most damaging taxes we have to low income and minority individuals. As you can see, our district, with the amount of money we receive in Title I grants, we are low income and minority. Now, Madam Chair, Dr. Matthews, members of the board, as to where we've been asked in this referendum to provide 1% sales tax to whatever we buy. Just recently, Madam Chair wrote an article explaining SPLOST, explaining the referendum, and maybe some people didn't find it was clear. Some members of the board said it wasn't clear. Representative Metters even issued a joint statement. This board approved this referendum, okay? The language, your attorney, everybody contributing to this. It's too late, okay? Adding this 1% is devastating at a time when we have all been asked to work with less but do more. The federal government has been dysfunctional. The sequestration has happened. Educational spending has been slashed. The state of Georgia has basically said, you know, education is not a top priority. We're worried about how we're going to have people carry guns in the bars or guns in the churches. That's where your legislative priorities are. Now, Madam Chair also points out that SPLOST funds can only be legally bound and used for capital expenses, okay? Whether it's building, schools, or other ventures. Well, why? This is your money. You should be allowed to freely to spend it on your district needs. Instead of this board telling me how I'm supposed to vote on a charter school amendment, maybe you need to go back and talk to your legislatures on how you need this money for this and that, and to give flexibility and opportunity, because as this article goes on, that Madam Chair penned, is since '06, you've received $53 million less from the Georgia-based funding formula. Now, I've spoken to some people that say in 3 years that could double. That's amazing. Also, I think one of the biggest slaps in the faces to every taxpayer in this room or every person in Newton County is the furnishings for Newton High School were not bought in Georgia. They were bought from a company in Gainesville, Florida. Now, it is said by some that it was a national contract, and this was our best deal. This was the best bang for our buck. Well, I myself have done a little side research. There's a company in Georgia called the Milliken Corporation out of Dawsonville, Georgia. There's a manufacturer for carpet and office furniture. Why can't we buy from them? Hunter Hall, the chamber president, has a motto: spend Newton County first, and if you can't buy Newton County first, buy Georgia first. Okay? I've also been on the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation website for technology. Here, it says $17 million is going to go to new technology. Well, we reached out to these nonprofits and these foundations that can provide low-cost, almost free equipment. Also, we have to look at all these buses we're buying. It just seems that, maybe leasing the buses would have been a better option. Maybe if we're going to build this other East Side school, we need to take into account of what happened during the last time we built a school. We had problems with sewer tap fees. Thousands of dollars in legal expenses were probably incurred. Who got rich off of that? Not the students, the lawyers. Now, it is necessary that, yes, we do need to, have capital expenditures, and we do need to expand, but we need to expand in a responsible way. Not on the backs of these little people. We need to take a look at how we can protect the tax base, improve property tax value, so that we won't keep having to continue this addiction of SPLOST. Now, I'm just a young man. I haven't been around the world, but I've lived in several school districts that are very successful. I've never heard of SPLOST and this adding 1%. When this was finagled by the legislature, it was to provide a short-term fix to give school districts a boost. We become addicted at the county level and at the school level. And when we're giving companies like Baxter International free rein and go ahead on not paying certain taxes, if you're going to ask me to pay the taxes, everybody should. And I feel that this just isn't the best way to do it. When we're asked to do something with less with more, the school board needs to.
All right, thank you. I appreciate your comments. I would like to reply because several of the comments that you pointed out were about an article that ran in the Newton Citizen that I was commented in. It was not about the eSPLOST. It was about rumors that have been, I've had constituents call me all weekend and last week that have been traveling around, and those were facts. Those were not things about eSPLOST. Those were to answer constituent questions. It wasn't that we didn't understand the referendum. Mr. Metters may have not, and he may have made that statement, and that is his opinion. I understood the referendum, and I was just telling the people that had called me because there had numerous phone calls and emails, and that was my way to get it out because obviously it was not just a few people that were contacting me. I felt there was a need to make these corrections about that. So,
Well, Madam Chair, if it was, more easily explained in more plain language that the average layperson could understand, that's the voter, I think that's where, I was trying to make my point. You look at, the referendum ballot, it took up most of the screen. If it was a more plainer language.
well, it's written by law. By law, we have to write things certain
I
understands.
understand that.
Also, it's not an addition to the SPLOST. This is not a new thing. This is an extension. It's new. And also, we can only do capital outlays because state law provides that. And you're absolutely right. We should talk to our legislatures. We should. There's no reason we should not have received $56 million when we're supposed to by state law. But we have talked and we have talked. The state is cutting funds left and right. So this is just an added benefit to allow us to be able to have the money that we're not receiving from the state. And it's a consumption tax.
Everybody.
It goes to everybody. It doesn't matter if you are enrolled in the schools or you live in Newton County, it's going to everybody. Now, I'm not telling anybody the way to vote. I'm just saying if this is the reason why it was collected, this is the reason why it was put out there. So there's no reason in that. So I just want you to realize that we are tied as elected officials by state law about how the referendum can be worded, about what monies that we can spend on it. I wish we could spend it on salaries. I wish we could get more teachers in the schools and have smaller class size. But the reality is, we are not receiving those funds from our property taxes, nor here locally, nor from the state. And that's one thing that the main expenditure of the SPLOST will go to, is really property taxes. So as a property owner, personally, I think it's great. But to others, they may not like it. They may not do it. But I will say this, regardless of what happens with SPLOST, this board will make the best decisions possible for the school system based on the money that we have. So if SPLOST doesn't pass, so be it. We'll have to use what we've got. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. Approval of the agenda. Do I have someone want to make a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Approval of minutes.
So moved.
A second. All in favor?
Aye.
Excuse me. Superintendent's reports, operations. I believe this is Ms.
Let's see.
Bullard will be first for
Yeah.
financial.
Ms. Bullard.
Let's see, expenditures are still below budget, coming in at 65.52% versus 66.67% of the year completed. We do expect to spend millions on textbooks and maintenance as soon as school is about ready to close for the next year. Our property tax revenues are a little bit better than they were last month, and they are 97.54 collected versus 98.06 this last year to date. SPLOST collections were down this month. Our string of $900,000 per month was broken. It went down to $779,382, but we're still averaging more than SPLOST 3 per month. Oh, and the grants on page 5 have been updated to the correct budgets, and I'm still getting more updates to grants. So they'll probably change again next month. And that's it.
Any questions? All right, thank you. Next is Mr. Barr, I believe. Is that right? Oh, okay.
Oh, Ms. Jan's coming.
You're switching off. Under maintenance and operations, we're pleased to tell y'all that Snapping Shoals has reduced our bill by demand account rates due to some very active activities by maintenance staff this summer, where we would turn off all the electrical use in the schools when Snapping Shoals notified us that they would be measuring our usage. And that Snapping Shoals is estimating that we may see a $25,000 a year reduction in energy costs just on the 12 accounts that they measured. So with all of our accounts, it will be more than that. Under capital projects, the new replacement Newton High School continues to make great progress, and overall the project is approximately 95% complete and currently on schedule. Final cleaning and closeout schedules are being coordinated at this time. And I'm excited to tell you that in school nutrition with our wellness coordinator, she was able to go out to 4 elementary schools in February and conduct 12 30-minute classes with the students. And she's doing more this month. We hope to hit all of the after-school care programs by the end of this month. That concludes the report.
All right,
questions?
any questions?
One comment, are there any schedule to do the remaining accounts?
They only audit 12, but it applies to all of the accounts.
Oh,
We
okay.
just have 12 that they audit. We don't know which 12 those are, so we have to turn the things off at all the schools. But it's all of the Snapping Shoals accounts that will see the benefit of those activities.
Okay,
We just don't know the estimated savings on those because they're not audited.
thank you much.
And we've got, just a reminder of board members before I forget, we've got a walkthrough of the new Newton High School this Thursday at 4:30, am I correct? 4:30? Okay, and we'll just meet there. All right, thank you. right, item B, under excuse me, curricular and instructional programs. Mr. Peck?
Are we going to go with
Oh.
Mr. Peck first or Mr. Den? Which do you want to do first? Lee, come first and do your report. Craig, you can follow Lee.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Our curriculum instruction and technology report for the month of March. Number one, our counselors were involved in a book study entitled Career Development Across the K through 16 Years. This book draws from research-based contextual models that address the career development needs and concerns for all individuals of all ages. Number two, our Newton College and Career Academy is currently accepting applications for the Science, Technology, Engineering, and Manufacturing Institute. A STEM Institute open house was conducted at the end of January. More than 250 students and parents attended the open house. The STEM Institute is scheduled to identify 54 upcoming ninth graders to participate in an intensive science and math program which connects to a career pathway in agriculture, healthcare, engineering, and manufacturing. Number four, Mr. Adam Fayal, he attended the Griffin Risa Technology Drive-In. He led two presentations that entitled How to Make Teaching a Social Experience and Active Learning in a Digital Classroom. The presentations used technology such as Promethean Active Boards and My Big Campus to enhance instruction. The active learning presentation covered how to create interactive lesson activities based on curricular standards and Dr. Robert Marzano's high-yield instructional strategies. In the social experience presentation, he covered school-friendly social media tools and how these tools can be used to engage students. Number seven, the Work-Based Learning and Youth Apprenticeship Program conducted the Aspiring Young Professionals Banquet was held on January 31st at our Newton College and Career Academy. For the past several months, the Work-Based Learning and Youth Apprenticeship students have participated in business etiquette and soft skills lessons in preparing for the event. Business and education leaders were invited to participate by networking with students at a business dinner and to complete a short evaluation of the student's performance in a business environment. The evaluations provided feedback to the student and helped to improve their communication and social skills. Our own Dr. Craig Lockhart, principal of Newton County High School, and Mr. Danny Stone, Snapping Shoals EMC, were the guest speakers for that event. Also, the Newton County School System partnered with the Covington Newton Chamber of Commerce to conduct the Workforce Development Summit. The summit was held on February 25th at the Newton College and Career Academy. This summit was attended by several local, regional, and state leaders. The aim of the conference was to create a conversation within the community to enhance partnership efforts and increasing a supply of highly qualified workers. On Friday, February 15th, our middle and high school registrars participated in a webinar conducted by Martha Wilson of K-12 Solutions. This webinar was designed to provide an overview and an update on scheduling processes for the upcoming school year. Administrators from several of the secondary schools also attended the session. Our Newton County school system right now is asking parents to participate in an online Southern Association of Colleges and Schools parent survey on March 11th through March the 22nd. These results will enable our school leaders to measure stakeholders' attitudes and help target improvement strategies focused on student achievement as well as school and district effectiveness. Taking the survey will also help stakeholders understand the advanced ed and SAC standards for quality schools and provide a means for learning about what a parent should be looking for in a high-quality school system. Parents received a flyer during the week of March 4th asking them to participate. Finally, number 20, training was also held for the formative assessment field test on February 6th for the administrators from Flint Hill, which they will test the 5th grade math. Oak Hill will test in 3rd grade ELA. Newton County Theme will test in the 4th grade ELA, and Clements will test in the 7th grade ELA, and Newton High will test in Math 2 and Geometry. These schools will randomly choose 45 students at each level to participate in this assessment. The questions in this assessment will be given at greater, higher level of depth of knowledge that typically is administered by the state. These questions will be mostly open-ended in nature, not multiple choice. Basically, the answers may build on one another. The answers from number 1 may be used to calculate the answer to number 2. The schools will not receive student or school scores. The district is participating with the state in helping partnership for the assessment of readiness for college and careers, which is called the PARC, which you've probably heard a lot about in the news. That concludes our curriculum instruction and technology report for March.
Are there any questions?
Are there any questions?
I have one. On number 2, Lee, have those 54 already been identified? It sounded like from what you said they have not been.
Not, I think they're in the process of doing that right now. I think they're trying to,
Would anyone who was not invited into that already know?
I don't think,
What they've done to this point is schedule interviews,
Oh, so they-
they're in the process of notifying students and parents of the interview process, and as a matter of fact.
This is what, you know.
I think
yeah,
that's,
yeah.
what we were talking about.
Okay.
Indian Creek interviews were today, so
Okay.
we're working through the process now.
All right.
All right. There are no further questions, then I think we'll move to our presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Craig, come forward. Before Craig begins, and forgive me, Craig, if I steal any of your thunder, but I want to make some opening comments.
Steal it.
Board members may or may not have seen by now the CNN piece that featured the pilot now underway at Newton High School with the ViewPath Safe System. ViewPath being a camera system for each of the 20 classrooms there in the pilot, as well as a silent alarm system, as well as a magnifying the teacher's voice or audio system, all built into one. This program was seen all over the country, and one of the things that really captures me, in addition to what teachers and administrators are saying at Newton High, is a phone call I received from a gentleman by the name of Alex Haler. Mr. Haler is the uncle of a young man by the name of Noah Posner. Noah was 6 years old and was killed in Newtown, Connecticut during those slayings. Mr. Haler called me because he had heard that we were introducing this as a pilot in our school system and wanted to know the results therefrom. I was pleased to share the most positive results we've gained from Newton County teachers and principals associated with the ViewPath Safe System. And he pointed out to me that he and his family, in a way of celebrating and serving Noah and many children to come, that they were looking at ways to further protect our children. So there are several very keen aspects of the ViewPath Safe System worth mentioning tonight, not the least of which is school security. Because with this system, should an intruder come into any of the classrooms in our school system, or the ones that certainly have this system anyway, they could be immediately noticed through the silent alarm system activated by the teacher, which is easily done, which then activates the camera. Even if the teacher had the camera off for the moment, it activates immediately the camera, which then allows administration and or other parties, including law enforcement, to look into the room in which the intruder may have entered. So it's an extraordinarily important system in this day and age in the minds of many of us in education. And that's true even as school resource officers may or may not be at the school site. The ability to look into any classroom and know exactly what classroom the intruder is in by number or by some other identification, and then monitor in real time what the intruder may or may not be doing is really, really important to, I think, many, many of us. So school security is one aspect of what you're about to see. Another aspect certainly is education. Children who miss a lesson could, by way of internet, go into the internet, log in, and see the lesson as missed the prior day through this ViewPath system that we have mentioned. So educationally, that's really, really important. Professional development. I ran into Shannon Buff, the assistant principal at Newton High School, while at the cleaners last week. And I said, Shannon, tell me again what your view of this system is. And is it something that I should be touting out there, or no, not really? And she said, absolutely, you should be touting the system because it's given us so much bang for the buck, not just in terms of school security and education, but in professional development. One of the things our teachers like most about it is being able to see how certain content or topic is taught in Ms. Jones's classroom so that Mr. Smith can view in and take up the excellent presentation he or she may have made, and then they get pointers from one another. And Shannon tells me she thinks it's been the most powerful professional development that they've had. And there are people like Robert Marzano and others writing that teachers viewing other teachers do their work may be some of the most important professional development that heretofore we've missed out on in this profession. So professional development is also an important aspect of what you're going to see. Last but not least, the school discipline. Newton High has been very clear in reporting that their school discipline in these 20 pilot classrooms is measurably much better than in days gone by prior to this system. So whether it's school security or education or professional development or school discipline, this system has multi-uses, and that's why we feel so strongly about it. And just today, we're getting inquiries from other school systems wanting to come visit Newton High School. And I saw where Dr. Lockhart weighed in with the individual asking to come from a local Georgia school system. But that said, here's Craig Dinn showing you, if you haven't seen it, the CNN piece that was featured recently per Newton High School.
How's it going?
Teacher Gina Futch at Newton High School in Covington, Georgia, says her students are special.
It's the same thing, isn't it?
Congressional election or what?
But look closely. There's something different about her, too.
You wear this around your neck. Tell me about this.
Well, this is a teardrop microphone, and basically it amplifies everything that I say.
The mic is designed by Jeff Anderson's company.
The audio enhancement story started with my mother. Trying to devise a system for my brothers to hear better in schools because they were hearing impaired.
His family has been in the educational audio business for about 30 years, but what started as a simple microphone has now developed into the SAFE system.
Well, principals, superintendents, and school board members came to us years ago and said, please implement a safety alert button in your microphones because it's the only thing that teachers currently are wearing to where they could alert the office.
If Ms. Futch were to need assistance or feel threatened, she'd press this button, and immediately that camera would snap a photo, which would be emailed to administrators and school resource officers, and then this would happen in the main office.
Attention administrators, I have a silent alarm in room number 44.
The administrators and officers would come to this room, and the entire time the camera is transmitting a live signal and recording video, possibly for an investigation later.
There's like 1,500 classrooms now across the country that have that.
Director of the SAFE system, Gregory Thomas, says his phone has been ringing nonstop since the Sandy Hook shooting, with superintendents looking for an extra layer of security.
What would this have meant to the teachers and the students at Sandy Hook?
I would say it's too early to tell. I think at this point right now, obviously, the gunman made his way into the building at the front door, and we have the ability also in this system to put a panic button at the front door that does the exact same thing that the button does that the teacher presses in the classroom.
Newton High is 20 weeks into a partial pilot program, but Principal Craig Lockhart plans to fully implement the system in every classroom next year.
Safety is important for our students. It is our #1 priority, and we must make sure that we have the latest advances in technology for our children. The enemies that we have are always prepared. We have to be even more prepared so that we can properly address situations and take care of our children.
At an average cost of $1,500 to $2,000 per classroom, it could be a burden for some struggling school districts, but Futch believes it's worth the investment.
This is something that helps me and gives me more confidence. It helps me to protect my kids because I know I can get help very quickly.
Victor Blackwell, CNN, Covington, Georgia.
Greg, is there anything you wanted to say?
No, I think you covered everything.
Thank you. That concludes the presentation.
All right, thank you. All right, next on the agenda is the enrollment report. Mr. Peck, I believe.
I have some really good news tonight, Madam Chairperson, Dr. Matthews, and the Board of Education. We're real excited because our enrollment report this year This year, we have 19,151 students. Last year, we had 19,066 students, which we're actually up this year, this time from last year, of 85 students. So we've seen quite an increase. So we're excited.
Good. All right, any questions?
I have one. Sorry, Mr. Peck.
That's okay.
So with that excitement about more students, I'm going to go back to a question that I asked a couple of months ago. I think I asked it in January or December about Flint Hill.
Right.
And I noticed then that they were slowly increasing, almost at 1,200. And now, and you guys assured me that you had a plan for when they reached that. And now they're at 1,210.
You're right.
So,
Very good question.
okay.
We're actually putting that plan together
Okay.
today
Okay, very good.
as we speak. So we actually, Ms. Fury, myself, and Ms. Hampton met for about 4 hours this morning, going through the allotments and looking, and we were actually compiling a plan for Flint Hill
Okay.
and addressing their increasing enrollment.
What are some of the things in the plan? Can I ask, or is it too like
Let me
premature?
look at my boss and mayor.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
So when will you guys be able to? I'll take that. I'll take that since it was done today. So when will you guys be able to kind of tell us, like, part of the plan?
I would think, like I said, we met
We'll be able to give you some information relative to what improvements by way of personnel, probably in the next few days.
Okay.
So let me ask, okay, one principal, how many APs are there?
There's 3. No, there's 2.
There's
Two.
two.
So how many students do each of those APs earn? For example, how many students do I need for AP 1?
I believe looking at the, what has been previous practice in Newton
And does
County.
IDEA bear anything in it?
They've looked at,
It
I
does
think,
not?
between 12 and 1,300, either a half-time or a full-time assistant principal.
One?
Yes. An extra one, after about 1,200 students, between 1,200 to 1,300
So
would
what
be.
I think Mr. Matters is asking is, how many students allocated to each administrator?
Right.
And, the way the system allocates administrators is based on the total enrollment. And so for an elementary school, for example, once they exceed 800, so at 800 students, we assign 1 principal and 2 assistant principals. Once you exceed 800 and get to the 1,200 range, then we start looking at adding an additional assistant principal.
third.
Yes,
Okay.
and so what we have right now is Flint Hill is in this zone between 12 and 1,300. And we are building a plan to address what happens between 12 and 1,300, because prior to now, we've not had an elementary school that's been that large. So you've got this barren place between 12 and 1,300, where if you look at a middle school allocation, you don't add another assistant principal until 1,301. So we're trying to make sure that we allocate Flint Hill correctly based on the fact that they're elementary school students.
Are they disproportionately high in SWD?
No, and I wish I could find for you.
I trust you, I mean, I just don't need
We
to.
actually did
I have a
spend a lot of
fabulous
time
spreadsheet that
working on that,
outlines
too.
So they're
every
okay.
elementary
Yes,
school
they're actually lower than most.
and their proportions and how many administrators are assigned to each student proportionally speaking. And then looking at poverty, looking at special ed, and it's the number of special ed students, and trying to figure out how does that weigh into how we assign people to our schools. And when you allocate and you look at this red window, Flint Hill falls dead center. So they're not out of compliance or out of line with the system as a whole. They're actually under what many of the other schools have, proportionately speaking, relative to special ed.
So your basis, should you add a third, would be FTE?
Yes, it
Okay.
would be based on the numbers.
That's fine, that's all I need to know. Thanks.
I have one question. In assigning your number of APs,
Yes.
in your plan, would it include looking at that a particular school, because one school may need more than another? So it shouldn't be a set in stone. Once you get this number, do you understand my question?
Right now, the way that we're set up is sort of a one-size-fits-all, 800, you get this, 1,200, you get that, 1,300, you get this. And so the spreadsheet that I designed many months ago, it's one of those things that sat on my computer and has suddenly relocated itself, but I have been looking for it. I can't find it. It's an awesome spreadsheet that I would love to share with you. It's a very good spreadsheet.
Yes, it is.
Looking to address the proportionality, looking closely so that a school that has a higher number of students in poverty, how do we assign teachers to that school, knowing that those students are coming in oftentimes behind, even before they step through the door? So that's sort of what we're looking at, but until we can move to that position, we have these standard formulas that have been in place that we continue to follow and try to modify to meet the needs of the system as schools grow and develop and as we build the schools the sizes that we're building them. So I hope that answers your question.
Let me ask you one other question, and I'll patiently wait on the plan, but just out of curiosity along with that, since they have so many more students, and I don't know, do they have like a full-time nurse over there and stuff?
I believe they do.
They do have a full-time nurse. And then what about like the specials, the teacher?
Right now, I don't know if you know how the specials are done at Flint Hill right now with the theme school.
They're split.
They're split right now. And
but with this number,
we'll probably have to look at addressing that as well.
Okay.
Same thing with their front office staff. They're assigned the same number of staff as some of the smaller sister schools, and we need to reconsider those things. And we've had lots of conversations around that today. It's that season right now to make the corrections.
Right.
And we've been working closely with Dr. Thomas at Flint Hill. She wrote us a
nice letter about her prioritize. She has the things that she really feels the needs
so
of
we're
her
working
school
to look at that.
prioritize. So, because she realizes budget is a factor too. So she's listed things in order of need that she feels like her building really needs in the order in which she really, so.
yeah. Well, when you look at them compared to the other schools, and that was why I expressed that concern a couple of months ago, it's large.
It is large.
And they're elementary students.
Yes.
That's right.
They're elementary students.
You're absolutely right. There's a lot of little people there.
Yes.
Lots of little people.
All right, any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
There is no old business, I do not believe, on our agenda, so we will go to new business. Item A, B, and C would be Mr. Barr.
No, I have no spreadsheet tonight. Good evening.
Good evening.
Item A relates to the purchase of select technology for the replacement Newton High School. The superintendent recommends select technology needed for the replacement Newton High School be purchased from Bytespeed LLC, Dell Corporation, and Audio Enhancement Incorporated. This is 3 elements in here. The first one, the recommendation includes the acquisition of desktop computers from Bytespeed LLC at a cost of $397,020 using a contract established by the Newton County School System through a competitive solicitation process. Number 2, it includes the procurement of laptops, laptop carts, docking stations, and tablets from the Dell Corporation at a cost of $329,996, using a contract established and managed by the state of Georgia. And the final piece, it includes the purchase of the ViewPath system for the school at a cost of $513,002, utilizing a competitively bid contract managed by PEPM, a national technology bidding and purchasing program. And I won't get into the specifics of that as we've seen the video. As a footnote, the technology department has identified and is moving 90 student desktop computers and 74 laptops to the new Newton High School facility, and this has reduced the total cost by $128,000. And these are purchases that will be made from capital funds.
Any questions? All right, item B.
Item B, this relates to a contract for interactive projectors. Let's see. The superintendent recommends the annual renewable contract for interactive projectors be awarded to Summit Systems Incorporated of Beaufort, Georgia. The effective date will be March 20th, 2013, and the expiration date will be March 19th, 2014. The bid was opened on February 19th, 2013. Four vendors submitted bids in response to this solicitation. After review, it was determined the bid submitted by Summit Systems Incorporated offered the lowest cost to the school system. The solicitation pricing includes the projectors and all associated peripherals, cabling, raceways, hardware, as well as installation and cleanup. These projectors can be used with existing whiteboards and thus can provide both enhanced flexibility and decreased cost. The projectors will be installed in the replacement Newton High School at a cost of $282,024.60, as well as in select locations throughout the school year. The items purchased for the replacement Newton High School will be a capital funds expenditure. The total estimated contract value is $618,072.50.
Questions? All right.
And finally, item C is surplus property. Superintendent recommends declaring the items identified in the attachments to this memo no longer serviceable to the school system and authorizes for the appropriate disposal of those items.
Any questions? None? All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I believe Ms. Lumens has item D and E.
The really exciting stuff, fire ants. The superintendent recommends an annual renewable contract for fire ant treatment services be awarded to B&G Services doing business as Prime Maintenance of Grayson, Georgia. Effective date of the contract will be March 20th through 2013 through March 19th, 2014. The bid covers the treatment of all grounds which students and staff frequent, including athletic fields, playgrounds, and mulch areas. The product to be used was recommended by the Newton County Extension Office in conjunction with the University of Georgia. We had eight vendors to a bid, and after the bids were evaluated based on a cost per acre per treatment, it was determined that Prime Maintenance offered the lowest cost to the school system. The estimated contract value is $35,000 a year.
All right, any questions?
I just have one thing I want to point out with the bids, and it's just for clarity purposes for anybody who is listening or watching, since we're on cable now. And the thing is, we always do competitive bids, and you guys always select whoever has the best price, the best bang for the buck. So I just wanted to kind of state that for clarity. So sometimes that's not always the local company. And just to point out something, what I'm looking at, local, like going with somebody in Gray, and sometimes it may not be in state as well. You got to get the best bang for the buck. But just going with this Grayson, you chose Grayson, and just looking at the price difference with the local companies here between Oxford and Covington, the difference was with one almost $10 difference per acre, and the other one, my gosh, it's like $40 difference per acre.
$60-something. One's 85 versus 70.
But I'm saying local compare. I just looked at the two local, Oxford and Covington, and then even looking at Conyers, that's about $15, about $13, $15. So sometimes locally or in the state, you can't get what you need to get during that competitive bid process.
And Madam Chairman, if I may add on to what Ms. Henderson Baker has quite rightly pointed out, it is a competitive bid process that we use. The bidder has to give us the best price, but meet the specifications for that which we're asking service for or goods for. So you got to meet what we believe meets the criteria. That's a minimum threshold. If you don't meet the criteria, you're not in the hunt. And then once you meet the criteria, then it's the best price.
That's correct.
And law requires almost, I think it's a fair statement. Correct me, Jan, if I'm wrong. I'm not sure whether Georgia law requires us to take the best bang for the buck, but there are states I've worked in that do. And it certainly is a best practice.
It's best practice, and yes, we are required to take the lowest price that meets the criteria.
Right.
But aren't we required as well, if someone meets our specs and they have the lowest price, but the information that we gather during the process, we discover that they have not provided the service, that we have an option to take the next
That's
highest
correct,
bid.
yes, sir.
Exactly. So we just want to make that clear.
Thank you. Thank you.
You
for
gotta have a
that.
good track record.
All right, next is the lunch meal price
The
increase.
lunch meal price increases. Unfortunately, the superintendent recommends approving a student lunch price increase of 10 cents
Again.
for all paid students, again, for the next school year. And this is based on the United States Department of Agriculture passing a law, or the legislature passing this National School Lunch Program, Healthy Hunger-Free Kids Act of 2010 that requires paid lunch equity to be comparable to the amount that is reimbursed for the free meals. And unfortunately, we have to continue to increase our prices based on the paid lunch equity calculator. So we are recommending elementary lunch to increase from $1.60 to $1.70, and secondary lunch to increase from $1.85 to $1.95. We were able to hold the adult lunch prices at $3 for this year, same as last year. Newton County School System student meal prices remain below nearby counties with similar menus.
All right, are there any questions, comments? I believe that's it. Thank you. The last item on the agenda is item F. Turn it over to Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Madam Chairman and board members. As customary, I'm asking that you approve all items presented tonight in executive session.
Can we have a motion to approve the items discussed in executive session? So moved.
Second.
Second by Mr. Metters. All right, all in favor?
Excuse me.
Oh.
That's
Yes,
exclusions.
exactly, I'm sorry. There are certain members here that need to recuse themselves on some of the personnel.
Item 1082 for me.
All right, mine is 138.
857.
All right. And just to explain to the public, we are voting on the approval of staff members, and these, the numbers that we said that we're recusing ourselves from are relatives, immediate relatives of ours. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. Any other matters of interest, board members?
I have one, and I meant to say it earlier. Today, I did go to the legislative site visit for the District 4, for our District 4, the Georgia School Board Association, which was at the Capitol, and I just want to pass out, and most of you guys have the Capitol Watch, get the Capitol Watch alerts and stuff, but I want to pass out the House bills, Senate bills, the House resolutions, and the Senate resolutions that they were asking us to watch that were specifically related to education.
I got
Okay.
All right, great. All right, well then, can we get a motion to adjourn? All right, all in favor?
Aye.